The hem of my bridesmaid dress catches under my heel as I drag the last folding table across the venue floor. 6 hours until my brother's wedding. 4 months of planning distilled into this single Saturday in June, and I am the only one here setting up. My phone buzzes against the table's metal edge. Did you confirm the florist delivery time? My sister-in-law's text glows on the screen. Not good morning. Not do you need help. Just another item on the checklist she's decided lives inside my head. I did confirm. I confirmed Thursday. I reconfirmed yesterday. The dahlias and white garden roses are arriving at 11, exactly when I scheduled them, because that's what I do. I confirm things. I reconfirm things. I make sure every single detail lands exactly where it belongs so that everyone else can simply show up and feel the magic without ever wondering who conjured it. My name is Claire. I'm 31 years old. I work remotely as a project coordinator, which apparently makes me the family's default event planner, travel agent, and personal assistant. I have organized my parents' anniversary dinner for the last 6 years running. I planned my cousin's baby shower in 3 weeks flat when her original host backed out. I drove 4 hours each way last Thanksgiving to handle the catering crisis when the restaurant my mother booked went out of business 48 hours before the holiday. And now I am here, alone in the Magnolia Gardens event hall at 7 in the morning, setting up my brother Daniel's wedding while he sleeps in a hotel suite 12 minutes away. My other phone notification comes from my mother. The program says coordination by Lakeview Events staff. I told them to add your name. They said the programs are already printed. I set the phone face down on the table. I breathe in through my nose. I breathe out through my mouth. Fine. Programs are already printed. Fine, I pick up my phone and keep working. The florist arrives at 11, exactly on time. I direct the setup crew through the ceremony arch placement while simultaneously answering a call from the DJ about load-in parking. My future sister-in-law Sophie shows up at noon with her bridesmaids, and they move through the space like visitors at a museum, touching the centerpieces, admiring the candles, taking photos for Instagram. This is absolutely gorgeous, Sophie's maid of honor says, spinning slowly in the middle of the room. Who did all of this? The venue has a great team, Sophie says, already turning back to her phone. I am standing 4 feet away, adjusting a table runner. Daniel arrives at 2 for photos. He walks through the room and stops, genuinely stunned, taking in the arch draped in eucalyptus and white blooms, the lanterns I spent 3 evenings hand-wiring with ribbon, the custom escort card display I built from a reclaimed wood frame I found at a flea market and refinished myself. Wow, he says. This is exactly what Sophie wanted. He doesn't look at me when he says it. He's already texting someone. The ceremony is beautiful. I know because I watch it from the back of the room, near the sound system, in case anything needs adjusting. My bridesmaid dress is the same dusty blue as the others. I was given the title, the dress, and the task of managing the timeline. When the processional begins, the other bridesmaids line up at the entrance. My mother touches my elbow. Honey, can you stay back and cue the music with the DJ? He's a little uncertain about the timing. I look at the line of women in dusty blue. I look at the empty space where I would have stood. Sure, I say. The word comes out so practiced it barely sounds like a word at all. I stand beside the DJ booth while my brother gets married. I watch through the viewfinder of my phone camera, where I am live streaming the ceremony for an elderly aunt who couldn't travel. I hold the phone steady. I cue the music. I make sure the moment is perfect for everyone else to live inside. The reception moves exactly as scheduled. Cocktail hour, dinner, toasts. Daniel and Sophie's first dance is to the song I researched and suggested when Sophie said she wanted something romantic but not overdone. She loved it. I never mentioned it was my recommendation. The best man's toast makes everyone laugh. The maid of honor's toast makes everyone cry. And then the MC, a cheerful man with a wireless microphone, announces a special acknowledgement. Before we open the dance floor, the family wanted to take a moment to thank the people who made tonight possible. First, the incredible team here at Magnolia Gardens applause. The fabulous catering crew from Riverside Kitchen. More applause. And of course, the stunning floral design by Bloom and Branch. I am sitting at a table near the kitchen entrance. The seating chart, which I created, placed me between a college friend of Daniel's I've never met and a +1 whose name I don't know. The family table, the long rectangular one with the extra floral arrangement and the reserved signs I personally printed and laminated, seats my parents, my aunt and uncle, Daniel and Sophie. The wedding party, 8 chairs. Not one of them has my name on it. My father leans over to my mother at the family table and says something. She nods. Neither of them looks for me. The college friend beside me introduces himself. He's a dental student from Columbus. He asks me how I know the couple. I'm Daniel's sister, I say. He pauses. Oh, I didn't realize he had a sister. He never mentioned. He stops himself, smiling awkwardly. Well, it's a beautiful wedding. Thank you, I say. I excuse myself and walk to the restroom. In the mirror, I look at the dusty blue dress, the careful updo I did myself at 6 this morning, the small pearl earrings I wore because Sophie's aesthetic board on Pinterest was full of them and I wanted to fit the vision. I look exactly like I belong here. I look exactly like someone who should be at this wedding. But fitting a vision and being seen inside it are not the same thing. I pull out my phone and open my texts. My best friend Maya, who lives in Portland and who has listened to 4 months of wedding logistics updates with remarkable patience, sent a message an hour ago. How are you holding up? Are they being good to you tonight? I start typing an answer. Delete it. Start again. Delete that too. Finally, I lock my phone and put it back in my small clutch. When I return to the reception, the dancing has started. My parents are on the floor with Daniel and Sophie, laughing, my mother's hand on my father's shoulder. My aunt is taking photos on her tablet. The man from Columbus is talking to a bridesmaid. Everyone has found their place in the evening. I pick up my jacket from the back of my chair. I find Sophie's mother near the bar and let her know that the venue staff has the timeline for the evening. Everything is handled through the end of the night, no decisions required. Oh, wonderful, she says warmly. You're such a sweetheart for staying on top of all of this. Sophie is so lucky to have family like you. I smile. I thank her. I walk out of Magnolia Gardens at 9:17 p.m., 4 months of work dissolving behind me into the sound of a song I picked playing over a dance floor I'll never stand on tonight. My car is cool and quiet. I sit in it for a long time before I start the engine. When I get home, I don't cry. I open my laptop instead. I find a creative writing retreat in Taos, New Mexico. 10 days in the high desert, a small group of 12. Morning workshops, afternoons free, meals provided. No agenda except to show up and write and breathe the dry mountain air. The application asks for a short bio and a brief writing sample. I write for 40 minutes straight. The words come out of me like something that's been pressurized for a long time and finally found an opening. I submit the application. Then I book a flight. Then I open the family group chat and type, I'll be out of contact for a bit. I need some time. Love you all. I turn off notifications before anyone responds. Taos in September is the color of rust and sage and late afternoon gold. The retreat center sits on 5 acres outside of town, low adobe buildings arranged around a central courtyard where a fountain runs quietly all day. My room is small and simply furnished a bed, a writing desk, a window that faces east and fills with early light. There are 11 other people at the retreat. A retired schoolteacher from Georgia who spent 30 years grading papers and wants, finally, to write the novel she's been carrying around in her head. A software engineer from San Jose who describes himself as a person who has optimized every part of his life for productivity and forgotten what he actually enjoys. A woman named Diane, around 50, with silver-streaked hair and paint-stained fingers, who drove from Albuquerque and says she hasn't taken a vacation in 6 years. On the first morning, our workshop leader, Gloria, a published novelist with a calm, unhurried voice, asks us each to answer one question. What have you been too busy to feel? The room is quiet for a long moment. The Georgia teacher says grief. The engineer says joy. Diane says relief. I say, invisible. Gloria nods slowly. Good, she says. That's your story. I don't understand what she means until the third day, when I sit with my notebook at a picnic table in the courtyard and write for 3 hours without stopping. I write about being the daughter who coordinates, and the sister who organizes, and the woman who shows up early and leaves late, and holds the whole structure together while the people inside it live their lives without ever registering the people. Architecture. I write about Daniel's wedding. I write about standing at the DJ booth in my bridesmaid dress. I write about the dental student who said he never mentioned he had a sister. I write until my hand cramps and my coffee goes cold. Diane reads over my shoulder without asking permission, which should bother me but doesn't. When I stop, she says, Have you ever told any of them how this feels? No, I say. Why not? I think about it for a long moment. Because they'd say I was being oversensitive. Because they'd say that's just how you are, you love doing this. Because when someone tells you who you are often enough and early enough, you stop arguing with them. Diane is quiet for a moment. Then she says, I stopped arguing with my ex-husband about who I was. Took me 43 years to start again. She pats my hand. Don't wait that long. That evening, the group takes a van to a mesa outside of town to watch the sunset. We stand in a loose cluster on the red rock while the sky turns amber, then copper, then a deep and extraordinary violet. No one talks. There's nothing to coordinate. There's nothing to manage. There's just the horizon going on forever in every direction and the strange sensation in my chest of not being needed. It takes me until the third day to realize that sensation isn't emptiness, it's rest. My phone reconnects to signal on day 4 when I drive into town for a coffee. The notifications stack up before I can even get out of the car. 17 messages in the family group chat. 6 from my mother. 3 from Daniel. 2 voicemails. My mother's first voicemail. Claire. Where are you? I've been calling. Call me back. Her second. Okay, I'm a little worried. Sophie's mom is asking about thank you cards, something about the vendor list and addresses. I told her you'd know. Please call. Daniel's texts are logistical. He needs the name of the calligrapher I hired for the escort cards because Sophie wants to use her again for something. He needs the vendor receipts I was holding. He needs. I sit in the parking lot of a small coffee shop on Bent Street with my phone in my hand. Across the street, a turquoise-painted gallery has a banner in the window. New works, local artists, come in. I get out of the car. I go into the gallery instead of calling anyone back. The paintings are large and vivid, oil on canvas, landscapes of the desert in colors that don't seem possible until you see the real landscape and realize the paintings are actually understated. I stand in front of one for a long time. It's a woman standing on a flat stretch of red earth, facing away, looking towards something the viewer can't see. The gallery owner asks if I'm looking for anything in particular. I'll know it when I find it, I say. When I get back in the car, I text Daniel. The calligrapher's name is Priya. Google Priya hand lettering Denver and you'll find her. The vendor receipts are in the green folder in the 3rd drawer of my desk. You know where my spare key is. Then I open a new message to my mother. I type for a while. I delete most of it. Finally I write, I'm safe. I'm in New Mexico at a writing retreat. I needed to do this. I'll explain when I'm ready to talk. I love you. I put my phone away and drive back to the retreat center. On the 7th day, Gloria holds a different kind of workshop. Instead of writing prompts, she asks us to think about a conversation we've been avoiding. Not the content of it, just the fact that we've been circling it. She asks us to write down, in one sentence, what we would say if we finally stopped circling. I write, I have been here the entire time and you have never seen me. I read it back. My handwriting is very even. I've always had controlled handwriting, the kind you develop when you're the one taking notes at every family gathering, writing the seating charts, addressing the envelopes. That evening I FaceTime my family. It takes 3 tries to get everyone on the same call: my parents at home, Daniel and Sophie in their apartment, my older sister Rachel on her lunch break in Chicago. Their faces tile across my screen, and for a moment no one says anything because they're all trying to orient to the backdrop behind me, terracotta walls, a string of small lights, the edge of my writing desk. You're really in New Mexico, my mother says. It sounds less like a statement and more like she's processing information that doesn't compute. I told you I was taking time, I say. You left the weekend of Daniel's wedding. My sister's voice is cautious. I left the week after Daniel's wedding. I stayed through the whole event. I stayed until 9 p.m. I just didn't stay forever. I pause. I want to talk about the wedding. I want to talk about some things. Daniel shifts on his couch. Sophie appears briefly in the background and then disappears. I appreciate that, actually, that she gives us the room. I planned that wedding for 4 months, I say. I built the escort card display by hand. I picked the ceremony music. I confirmed every vendor, every timeline, every dietary restriction for the rehearsal dinner. I was at the venue at 7 in the morning and I left at 9:15 at night. We know, my mother says. And it was beautiful, Claire. Everyone said. I was seated next to a man I'd never met who didn't know Daniel had a sister. Silence. The MC thanked the venue staff, the caterers, and the florist. My name was not in the program. I was pulled out of the bridesmaid processional to cue music with the DJ. I watched my brother get married from a booth in the back corner of the room. My father, who has been quiet this whole time, leans forward slightly. His reading glasses are pushed up on his head, the way they always are when he's thinking carefully about something. I stood at the back of that ceremony. I continue, in the dress I was given the title to wear, and the thought that came to me was, I have done this my whole life. I have been at the back of every room, making sure everyone else was in the right place, and no one has ever once saved me a spot at the front. My sister makes a sound that isn't quite a word. Claire. Daniel's voice is different from what I expected. Not defensive. Not the tone he uses when he thinks I'm overreacting. He sounds like someone who just walked into a room and realized something has been left out in the wrong weather for a very long time. I didn't know you were standing at the back. I know you didn't. That's the problem. We should have... He stops. I should have made sure you were in the processional. I told Sophie you'd handle the DJ stuff and I just assumed you were fine with it. I didn't even ask. You didn't ask? I say. That's the whole thing, Daniel. You never asked. None of you ever asked what I wanted. You just assumed I wanted to coordinate, because I'm good at it, and because I always said yes, and because it was easier that way. My mother's eyes are wet. She dabs at them with the back of her hand. I didn't think of it like that, she says quietly. I thought you enjoyed it. You always seemed... I seemed fine because I decided a long time ago that my needs came second. I don't know when I decided that. Maybe I was never given the choice. I look at each of their faces in the tiles of my screen. I love you. I love being your daughter and your sister. But I am not your event coordinator, and I am not your logistics person, and the next time I am in a room that I built, I will be at the front of it. My father clears his throat. There's a long pause before he speaks. When your grandmother was sick, he says slowly, and we needed someone to handle all the arrangements, the hospital paperwork, the calls to your aunt, the meals. You were 23 years old, and you just took it on. I remember thinking, she's so capable, she's got it. He stops. I don't think I ever considered what it cost you, or whether you wanted to be the one we turned to. I think I was just relieved that someone was handling it. He takes his glasses off and sets them on the table. That's not good enough. I'm sorry, Claire. I have held it together through this entire conversation. It is my father's specific, careful admission that breaks something loose in me. Not the apology in itself, the specificity of it. The fact that he reached back and found the actual moment. The fact that he named it. Thank you, I say, and I mean it without asterisks. The call ends gently, not perfectly, but gently. There are things that will take more than one conversation. My sister has questions she didn't ask. My mother still looked a little stunned when we hung up. But something has been said out loud that needed to be said out loud, and the saying of it changes the shape of the room. I go to the courtyard and sit by the fountain for a long time after. On my last morning in Taos, I wake up early and walk out onto the mesa behind the retreat center before anyone else is awake. The air is cold and thin and smells like juniper. The sun comes up slowly, pulling orange and rose gold out of the flat horizon, and I stand there in my jacket and my boots, and I do not check my phone. I do not wonder whether the family chat has messages. I do not run through a list of things I have to handle when I get home. I just watch the sunrise. It occurs to me that I have not just watched a sunrise in probably 4 years, maybe longer. I am usually doing something during sunrises, driving somewhere, coordinating something, responding to something. I have spent my entire adult life being useful and have somehow let that become a reason not to simply be. On the flight back, I sit next to a woman about my age reading a thick novel with a cracked spine. She reads the entire flight without checking her phone once. I find this quietly extraordinary. At the baggage claim, my phone reconnects, and the first message that comes through is from Daniel. Hey, Sophie and I talked. We'd like to take you to dinner this week, just the 3 of us. No wedding stuff, just to hang out. Let me know when you're free and we'll come to you. The second message is from my mother. I called the venue to ask about something and they gave me the name of the person who handled the booking and I realized it was you who set up the whole contract back in February. I went back and looked at how many times your number is in my call history from those 4 months. A pause, in the way text messages can pause through their line breaks. I want to learn how to make the potato dish you always bring to Christmas. Will you teach me this year instead of making it yourself? I read that message twice. I know what she's offering. It's small and domestic and it is not nothing. She's offering to move from receiving to learning. She's offering to be in the kitchen with me instead of waiting for something to appear on the table. I write back, yes, I'll teach you. The third message is from Diane, the woman from the retreat with the paint-stained fingers. She's attached a photo, the painting she finished in her last afternoon workshop, a figure standing on flat desert ground, viewed from behind, looking at a wide-open distance. similar to the painting in the gallery, but this one is smaller, more intimate, more certain. For you, her message says. Keep going. My first week back is strange, the way returning from any altered state is strange. The ordinary world looks the same, but you see it differently because you've changed the angle slightly. My apartment is familiar. My routines are familiar. But I move through them like someone who has been reminded that they live here by choice, not by assignment. The dinner with Daniel and Sophie is quieter than I expect. Sophie apologizes directly, without softening it. I took you for granted. I knew you'd handle things and I let that be enough. I'm sorry. She says it the way someone says something they've been practicing, which means she's been thinking about it. That counts. Daniel talks about things he hasn't talked about in years, a job he's been uncertain about, a city he's been thinking of moving to. He talks like a brother who forgot he had a sister he could talk to. I tell him about the retreating, about Gloria, about standing on the mesa at sunrise. He listens. When the check comes, he picks it up before I can reach for my wallet. I got it, he says. You're not coordinating anything tonight. I laugh. It sounds like my real laugh. Sunday dinner at my parents' house happens 3 weeks after I return. I arrive with nothing in my hands except my keys and a small potted succulent I bought because I liked it. My mother meets me at the door and holds it open and doesn't immediately hand me a list of things that need handling. The kitchen is warm and complicated. Something is slightly overcooked. The salad has too much dressing. My father has set the table and the forks are on the wrong side, which I notice and say nothing about. We eat around a table that is imperfect and full of conversation that is not managed by me, and when my mother brings out the dessert she assembled herself, slightly lopsided, she puts it in the center of the table and looks at it with something that is equal parts pride and embarrassment. It's not how you make it, she says. I know, I say. It's how you make it. She smiles. It reaches her eyes. After dinner, my father and I sit on the back porch while my mother and sister clean up inside. The neighborhood is quiet. The early October air has a first hint of something colder underneath it. I've been thinking, my father says, about how you became the one who handles things. I think it started when Grandma got sick and I realized you were capable and I leaned on that. And then it became a habit. Family habits are hard to see when you're inside them. I know, I say. I'm not going to pretend I can fix everything I got wrong, he says. But I'd like to know you better. The you that isn't coordinating anything. He looks at me carefully. What are you working on these days? Not work. What are you working on? The question surprises me. Nobody has asked me that in a long time. I tell him about the writing retreat. I tell him about Gloria's question, what have you been too busy to feel? And my one-word answer. I tell him about the essay I started in Taos that I've been developing since I got back, about invisibility and inheritance and the quiet cost of being reliable. He listens to all of it. He asks follow-up questions. He is not waiting for his turn to speak. When it's time to leave, he walks me to my car. Before I get in, he says, send me what you're writing when you're ready. I'd like to read it. I drive home with the windows down a little even though it's cool. The streets are lit in that particular amber of early autumn evenings and I think about what it means to have been seen by someone who has known you your whole life and somehow missed you. I think about it not with bitterness, but with something closer to relief. Like a door that's been stuck finally moving on its hinges. Back in my apartment, I open my laptop. The essay is 13 pages. I add 3 more in an hour. The words coming easily, the way they do when you've finally stopped managing the story and started living it. At the end, I write something I wasn't planning to write. A question to whoever will eventually read this. Has anyone ever made you feel like your worth was a service they were using? Did you figure out how to stop? I'm still figuring it out. But I'm starting to believe that the hardest thing about being capable is learning that you're allowed to be more than useful. You're allowed to take up space just by being present, not by performing, not by producing, just by arriving, and being someone that other people are genuinely glad to see. I read it back. Idon delatait. I hit save, close the laptop, and open my calendar for the first time in weeks. October is mostly empty. November has a few things. December has nothing yet, no events I've agreed to plan, no holidays I've volunteered to run. In the December block, I type one thing. Iceland photography application due. Then I go to bed. I fall asleep quickly, the way you do when you've stopped carrying something that was never yours to carry alone.